Isang mapagpalayang umaga at Happy National Teachers Month po sa ating lahat. Basta po ang bawat isa sa atin, manatili po sana tayong malusog at ligtas. Ugalitin po natin ang pagsusot ng face mask at face shield, ang physical distancing pag tayo ay lumalabas at ang pananatili sa bahay. Ako po si Celia Baldin, Science Education Specialist ng UP NISMED. At inyo pong magiging tagapagpadaloy sa webinar session natin ngayong umaga. Excited na po kami na magbahagi sa inyo at makasalamuha kayong muli. Ngayon marami po siguro sa inyo ay kilala na ang KaSaMa Teachers Community. Ngunit para sa iba, marahil bago pa ito sa inyong pandinig. Before I tell you more about KaSaMa Teachers, para sa mga nakakaalam na o kahit sa mga hindi pa, maaari naman po kayong mag-guess, ano? Pakibanggit po sa comment section kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng KaSaMa. KaSaMa. Yan, so andito po tayo no sa KaSaMa Teachers Community at nandito po tayo sa ating pangatlong session ng ating series on remote teaching and learning for K-12 teachers. Ano po sa palagay ninyo ang ibig sabihin ng KaSaMa? Sirit na po? Okay, so ngayon makikilala na ninyo ang KaSaMa Teachers Community. Ang ibig pong sabihin ng KaSaMa or KaSaMa stands for Ka-Science and Ka-Mathematics Teachers. Ngayon, tignan naman natin ano-ano ang mga organizations ang nasa likod ng KaSaMa Teachers. KaSaMa Teachers Community or Ka-Science and Mathematics is a professional online community for Filipino K-12 science and mathematics teachers launched by the University of the Philippines National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development or UP NISMED in partnership with Gokongwei Brothers Foundation or GBF for short. To know more about our platform, please watch this video. Okay, so mayroon palang nakasagot ng tama, no? Si Teacher Milky Padua Batang, Ka-Science, Ka-Math. Ngayon, alam na po natin na aside from webinars, we also continuously develop content and learning resources such as lesson plans, activities and exercises, as well as assessment and test items, among other things, which could be of help to you as you prepare for the opening of classes, especially as you transition to the next normal in education. Now, how do you register? As you can see, just visit www.kasamateachers.ph, which is now flashed on your screen, and type in the caption and sign up for free. Connect with your co-teachers connect with KaSaMa Teachers Community. Once again, welcome to KaSaMa Webinars by KaSaMa Teachers Community. Ako po muli si Celia Balbin, isang Science Education Specialist ng UP NISMED at siya pong magiging tagapagpadaloy sa webinar session natin ngayong umaga. This session is again made possible by the UP National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, or UP NISMED, in partnership with Gokongwei Brothers Foundation. UP NISMED is a research and extension arm of the University of the Philippines, Liman, whose mandate is to help improve science and mathematics education development in the country. On the other hand, GBF is a family foundation whose core thrust is advancing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, believing that this is the driving force toward sustainable national development for our country. In 2011, UP NISMED established KaSaMa Teachers to help teachers during the transition to the K-12 basic education curriculum. In 2019, UP NISMED and GBF partnered to bring an improved one-stop hub for communication, collaboration, learning and development for Filipino K-12 science and mathematics educators. Through this website, KaSaMa Teachers PH, KaSaMa provides free quality teaching resources, a platform for sharing best practices and professional development opportunities to K-12 science and mathematics teachers. As we transition to the next normal, now more than ever, KaSaMa Teachers Community will continue to bring you relevant and helpful opportunities for professional development and develop learning resources which could help you prepare for the opening of classes. Kasama niyo po kami, mga kasama. As we begin today's webinar session, just a few reminders. Huwag mahiyang magtanong. If you have questions, just comment with your school and division. We'll be collecting your questions and have our resource speaker answer as many of these before the session ends. Feel free to tag your friends, message them, and invite them to join us anytime. Stay with us until the end of the session. Our resource speaker will provide a copy of our presentation to all who will be able to answer the feedback form at the end of the session. Of course, the presentation will be sent to your individual email addresses. Let me now introduce to you our resource speaker. Our resource speaker is a science education specialist, also at the University of the Philippines National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, or UP NISMED, and is also an adjunct faculty of the UP Open University, teaching both undergraduate and graduate courses. She has been involved in training teachers on the use of ICT in science and mathematics at the basic and teacher education levels for 27 years now. Mga kasama, to talk with us about flipping classrooms, let us all welcome Dr. Mona Lisa Pesasi.
Thank you, Sel. And Sa lahat ng mga nasa FB Live ngayon, magandang umaga. At para dun sa mga taga Mindanao and Visayas, maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. And we're on our third webinar session for our series on remote teaching and learning. If you remember, our session the past two sessions were focused on first on helping you how to deliver modular instruction, using printed or digital modules. The second session, we focused the second session on helping you design online learning activities. So we gave you tips and some guidelines on what to give to your students for online learning. DepEd, in its basic education learning continuity plan, prescribed not just distance learning, but also blended distance learning. So it's a combination of all the modalities, or two or more of the remote learning modalities. And DepEd also actually prescribed blended learning, but only for those who are allowed face-to-face to conduct face-to-face sessions with students. And of course, there should be physical distancing and other safety protocols should be observed when you conduct blended learning. Technically, blended learning is defined as that formal education program in which a student learns at least in part, through online delivery of content and instruction, having the control of time, place, path, or pace, at least in that supervised brick and mortar location away from home. That's according to Staker and Horn. In DepEd's basic education learning continuity plan, blended learning does not just refer to a combination of online and face-to-face, no? Blended learning covers that that combination of face-to-face with any of the remote learning modalities. So if you combine face-to-face with modular distance learning, that can be blended. Modular without the use of technology, without the use of the internet, no? Although in the screen that I have flashed to you right now, blended learning is the combination of online and face-to-face, okay? So in this type of modality, there's actually what we refer to as the flipped classroom. You probably have heard of flipped classrooms. So that is what we're going to discuss this morning in this session. So in this session, we're going to discuss how you're going to flip your classrooms. What are ways by which you can flip your classrooms? And but before that, we're going to give you an overview of what blended learning is. As I have presented earlier, we actually discussed the technical definition that we usually found on the net, no? That's making use of face-to-face instruction in combination with online learning. But again, in DepEd's basic LCP, blended learning is referred to as that combination of face-to-face learning delivery modality plus the use of any of the remote or distance learning modes. And I'm going to present to you the seven known models of flipping your classrooms and some examples, and what research says about flipped classrooms and how it promotes how flipped classrooms promote independent learning. So, Flipped Learning Network defined flipped learning as that approach in which the direct instruction is given to your learners, to their individual learning spaces, no? So the direct instruction happens in the individual's learning space and not in the group learning space in the classroom. And the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides learners as they apply concepts and engage actively in the subject matter. A classroom that makes use of the flipped learning approach is what we refer to as flipped classrooms. This is a type of blended learning in the sense that you're blending online and face-to-face, or you're blending in the learning of students in their own individual spaces with group learning in class. And it makes use of a pedagogical approach where certain learning activities are done outside of the classroom, and the usual time in class is being repurposed and spent more for inquiry, in applying concepts, in assessment, or working out on some issues or aspects, no, where students need help with. So what can your learners do in a flipped classroom? At home, what they can do is, just like when you give them readings, no, reading materials. So it can be in the form of digital texts, or it can be through online reading materials. You can refer them to websites that has a write-up about a particular topic, for example, about GMOs or genetically modified organisms, or you can give them review learning materials online, or you can pre-record your lecture and ask them to access it from a particular site on YouTube, for example, or you can refer them to other pre-recorded video lectures that are uploaded by other educators. But of course, before you do that, you have to make sure that you have reviewed, no, the materials that you provide your students. And they can also participate at home from their homes. They can participate in online discussions and do research assignments. While in school, what they can do in a flipped classroom is to practice those skills, no? For example, if they have learned a particular skill from a pre-recorded video, then they practice that in school. Or they engage in face-to-face discussion with their classmates, or even participate in a debate. For example, if they are in favor of genetically modified organisms or not. And they can also do presentations of their outputs or of the reports or the results of their research, or they can showcase their project in class. And then they can do also station activities, yung station rotation activities that we usually do in science classes. And you can also ask them to do in school peer assessment and review, no? So they give feedback to each other, they comment on each other's work. So these are just a few of the things that your learners can do in a flipped classroom, no? What they can do at home and what they can do in school. So how do you flip your classrooms? There are a lot of ways that you can flip your classrooms, but I'm going to present to you the 7 commonly known models of flipping classrooms. The first model is what we call the standard inverted classroom. So in this model, you're out of class, or the activity that your students do before class, meaning they do it at home. In most cases, they do it at home as an assignment. What they do is they get acclimated with new concepts, so they learn about particular concepts and terminologies via digital media, or they can also do that via physical or readings in printed materials, no, printed reading materials. And then learners can take down notes or even write down their questions related to the concepts that they have learned for further discussion in class. Then in class, in a standard inverted classroom, and during the class time, what learners do is they explore these new concepts further through learning activities. And that can include a one-on-one discussion with peers or an interaction with the teacher. So that's the first model, the standard inverted classroom. Again, here students are given reading assignments or some things that they watch at home, and then they do exercises or a discussion in class, or teacher address their questions in class. Okay, so that's the inverted standard inverted classroom. The next model is the discussion oriented flipped classroom. In this model, what the students do before class, again, usually in their own individual spaces, is that they watch a video, just like in the standard inverted model. They watch or they read, they're assigned a reading or they're assigned to watch a lecture video that is related to the uh, topic, no, the following day in class. So in class, what they do is, from the term discussion oriented, they spend more of their time discussing the reading assignments, and they answer even questions that they have, no? So the time in class is spent more on discussion. That's why it's called discussion oriented flipped classroom. The third model is what we call the demonstration focused flipped classroom. And in this model, students in their individual spaces or out of the class, and usually they do this as an assignment, so they do it before class, watch the pre-recorded video of the teachers, no, demonstrating a particular procedure or an experiment. So they watch it at home. So the teacher actually records a video of them of himself or herself doing that particular procedure or process or experiment in the case of the science classes. Then in school, what they do during class time is the students replicate that process, no? They do the procedure themselves in class. They do the experiment themselves in class. So that's why it's demonstration focused, because they learned how to do it by viewing the demonstration conducted by the teacher that is pre-recorded, and then in class, they do it on their own, okay? Replicating what the teacher did in the demonstration video. In the fourth model, we call this the faux flipped classroom. So this actually is good for those who don't have access to the internet or who don't have access to computers at home. So this is referred to as faux flipped classroom because in this case, it's somehow, you're actually faking, no? Sorry for the term, but you're faking the activity that students do in their own individual spaces that they normally do at home, by providing them that activity in class. So they actually do everything in class except that the teacher gives them time, no, to individually, for example, access the online resource and like taking a quiz online or taking a practice quiz online or watching an instructional video at their own pace using the computers in class. So after that part where students do those things at their in their own time during that given period, they now the teacher will now move, no, from learner to learner to offer just-in-time support to the learners. So if there are questions, clarifications about what they have done, or if they have questions about the topic presented in the instructional video, then the teacher will address those, no? So everything here happens in class. It's just that the students are given individual time, no, to do that pre-study or that viewing of the video or reading of an article online or taking a practice quiz online. Okay, so that's what that is called the full flipped classroom. The fifth model is the group-based flipped classroom. In group-based flipped classroom, in the out-of-class activity, which is done before class, this it's the same usual activity that you give in a standard inverted flipped classroom, no? It's where students learn from a video, for example, or from other resources that is provided before class. But in class, the activity is group-based. So they can do group work or group experiments together in class that is related to what they have viewed, no, at home or before class. So here, there are more learner interactions as they come to class to team up and work together for the assignments for the day. And they even explain to each other, no, the concepts that they have learned, which actually helps improve retention. Remember when students try to, or kahit tayo, ano, when we try to teach others what we know, mas maganda yung learning on our part, not just sa peer natin, kundi tayo mismo maganda yung magiging retention. Okay? So in this model, the class activities, the in-class activities are group-based. Okay? So that's why it is called group-based flipped classroom. For model 6, it is called the virtual flipped classroom. Everything here happens online, no? So here in the activity of the students outside of class, which happens in their own homes, are actually delivered, no, or done via a learning via a learning management system, or even without the learning management system, but they're given time to watch a video, or they're referred to a video lecture, for example. And learners here take great responsibility of their own learning because they have to make sure that they have watched the video prior to class, and the class is done online, no? The class time is spent online and is delivered via a usually via a learning management system, where the teacher provides the students with interactive activities, and the teacher contributes also to the collaborative and cooperative activities of the students. Okay? In the last type of flipped classroom, we call it flipping the teacher. In this case, the learners are assigned, no, for the homework or for the activity outside of the class. The learners take a video of themselves on a particular discussing a particular topic, or demonstrating a particular skill or a process. So the learners here actually act as the teacher, and the teacher prior to class watches these videos, no, done by the learners. And then in class, what the teacher does is to provide a summary of what the videos based on the videos that have been submitted, and then gives the best examples taken from the learners' videos and discuss common issues or themes, and guide learners based on their individual needs. Kaya siya tinawag na flipping the teacher because in this case, the students act as the teacher and the teacher discusses if there's any misconception or clarification or any issues or theme that may arise based on the video that the teacher has viewed. So this is the flipping the teacher model. Now, let me give you examples, and what I want you to do is you type in what kind of flipped classroom is being demonstrated in each of these examples that I'm going to share with you. Okay? So you just type them on the chat, on the comment box, and then we'll see kung naalala nyo pa yung 7 models of flipping your classrooms. So ulitin lang natin, meron tayo nung standard inverted classroom, flipped classroom. Next, meron tayo nung discussion-oriented flipped classroom. Third, we have the group-based flipped classroom. Fourth, we have the faux flipped classroom. And then the fifth is, ano yung fifth? We have the group-based flipped classroom. And then the virtual flipped classroom. And the last one is flipping the teacher. Okay, so are you ready now? So here's the first example. So what type of flipped classroom do you think is this? In this case, learners are assigned readings on GMOs or genetically modified organisms, and they take notes on what GMOs are, its benefits and risks. Then in class, what learners do is to discuss the benefits, the perceived benefits and threats of associated with GMOs, as well as they discuss their stand on the issue. So what do you think is this type of, is the model being demonstrated here? The flipped classroom model. Demonstration focused, is it? What else? Remember here, the students discuss about perceived benefits and threats associated with GMOs, as well as their stand concerning GMOs. And then, yes, okay, that's correct. It's a discussion-oriented flipped classroom. Okay? Okay, are you ready for the next one? The next one is, in here, everything actually happens in class, And in here, this is applicable to students who don't have access to the internet, or who don't have access to computers at home. So using the computers in class, the teacher provides students time to watch a video on YouTube about an instructional video on solar or lunar eclipses, and then they're given questions related to it, and then they answer those questions, and then the class time is spent on going around. The teacher goes around the classroom to offer just-in-time support to the learners to address their needs. So what type of flipped classroom model is being demonstrated here? Okay, you can type your answer on the comment box.
Okay, so let's get ready. All right, we already have an answer from teacher Nicole. Demonstration focused flipped classroom daw. Any other answers? Oh, we're getting another one. Full flipped classroom. According to teacher J.M. Bauzon. Other answers? We have 7 choices. Oh, another full flip classroom from teacher Bernardo Altamira.
Okay, that is correct, no? This is the full flipped classroom model.
Yay! Congratulations!
Okay, and in this time of pandemic, hindi siguro to applicable, ano? Kasi everything happens in class. Remember, we only do blended learning, or we can flip our classrooms when we're allowed to, no, by the IATF, and if we're in a low risk area. Okay. All right. For the next example, ano naman po ito? No? In this example, learners are assigned a homework to watch a video on YouTube about Pythagorean theorem and its applications. Then learners can take notes and write down their own questions about the topic. And then in class, learners do an activity or a sit work where they solve problems applying the Pythagorean theorem, and the teacher goes around to attend to the learners' questions. Okay? So, what flipped classroom model do you think is this one? Write your answers now on the comment box.
Type away. Again, you have 7 choices. All right, teacher Rochelle says it's a standard inverted flip classroom. While teacher Sol Punsalan says it's flipping the teacher. Another flipping the teacher. So 2 flipping the teacher answers and 1 standard inverted answer. More answers, everyone? There's
Okay.
one here from teacher Dulce Amor. Virtual flip classroom.
Okay, so
this one is correct.
the correct answer is the standard inverted classroom.
Yay!
Okay?
Congratulations, teacher MJ.
All right. So let's try this other example. So in this case, learners rather are assigned a video again to watch, no? And this time it's about typhoons. So how typhoons are formed, and how land masses and bodies of water affect typhoon formation. And in class, what learners do during their class time is a collaborative activity. So they explain to each other and discuss concepts related to typhoon formation and how typhoons are affected by land masses and bodies of water. And these discussions are based on what they have viewed on YouTube. Okay, so what type of flipped classroom model is being demonstrated in this example?
All right, start typing. All right, so while you're thinking about your answers, let me welcome again everyone. We've reached, I think, more than 800 live viewers right now. Oh, there's one answer, group-based. Teacher Yev, another group-based. Oh, everybody's answering group-based.
All right. Tama, no? That is correct.
Ang galing.
The group-based flipped classroom model that's being demonstrated in this particular example. Okay, next. Here, out of class, what they do is to watch a video again of their teacher doing the step-by-step procedure for making a pie chart. Then in class, learners are given exercises where they create pie charts for a given set of data, and they do the exercises and construct their own pie charts following the procedure which their teacher demonstrated in the video. So what flipped classroom model is being demonstrated here?
Parang giveaway itong example na ito.
Yes.
Parang kitang-kita kung ano itong model na to Sir Femi, demo-based flipped classroom. Another one from Teacher Rochelle, demonstration focus. So, dalawa na, yung demo focus. Tama kaya sila? Baka meron kayong ibang sagot. Meron pa bang ibang sagot? Kapareho o naiiba? Kapareho din si Teacher Kiam.
Okay. And the correct answer is?
Yes.
Demonstration
focused flipped classroom.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So obvious, ano? So the teacher pre-record a video of himself doing a particular procedure or a particular process or experiment. Then the students replicate it in class. Okay. The next example. So what do you think is this one? Learners are assigned to take a video of themselves. And then in that video, the learners illustrate the measures, for example, of a central, how to get the central, the mean, median, and mode for a given set of data. And then the teacher watches these videos before class and then goes to class with best examples taken from the learners' videos, and then discusses common issues and misconceptions and guides learners based on their individual needs.
Parang madali lang din ito
What type of flipped classroom model is being demonstrated here?
Parang madali lang ito. Kunya-kunyarian itong mga batang ito. Flipping the teacher. Sabi ni Teacher Trinity.
Okay. Ano pa?
Sabi din ni Sir Femi, flipping the teacher. Hala, nagkukopyahan sila. Flipping the teacher daw.
Okay, it's flipping the teacher classroom.
Teacher.
Okay. So we
Galing
have another one. In here, learners during the before class activity or out of class activity, learners do self-learning by watching an online video lecture in Khan Academy on projectile motion. And then during class time, which is done in Google Classroom, learners perform interactive activities, and they referred to a site of University of Colorado Boulders, which has interactive simulations, and then they do the activity there, and then the teacher provides, they go back to their Google Classroom, and then the teacher provides feedback on the results of the activities that's being submitted by the learners. So what type of flipped classroom model is demonstrated here?
Sabi ni Teacher Maria Crystalline, virtual flipped classroom. Ganon din ang sagot ni Teacher Eleanor at Teacher Mario. Virtual flipped classroom. Anong giveaway dito?
Okay, so the correct answer is virtual flipped
classroom.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are other ways, of flipping your classrooms. These are just 7 of the commonly used models. And Intel Teach also suggests some synchronous activities that students can do in class, like hands-on activities or games or experiments. And then in at home or in their own individual learning spaces, which is done asynchronously, students or learners view video lectures or listen to podcasts or even go to content-rich websites or do online chats with peers or with groups, with group mates. And then also another activity, the other sets of activities that they can do asynchronously can be creating blog sites or posting the reflections in blog sites, and then they do reflective podcasts also, or they take online tests. And the synchronous activities that they can do in class can be more of, for example, presenting the outputs of their projects or a presentation of the reports. Okay, so this is just these are just another set of examples, no, examples of the in-class and uh, out-of-class activities that you can do with your learners. That's suggested or that's recommended by the Intel Teach Elements Designing Blended Learning course. Okay, so what do research, no? What does research say about flipping classrooms or about flipped classrooms? Based on research conducted by those who have done flipped classrooms, um, flipped classroom actually allows your learners to take responsibility of their own learning. Why? When they do the learning activity at home, when they watch the video, for example, they have to make sure that they have done it. Otherwise, they won't be able to participate or they won't be able to relate to the activities that will be done in class. So they have to be prepared, no, to go to, they have to come to class prepared. So they have to watch the videos or the assigned readings that's given to them. Then it promotes self-paced learning. When students view at their own time the video materials or the instructional videos, they can rewind it or they can replay it several times until makuha nila, no, kung maintindihan nila ng mabuti yung sinasabi or kunyari yung paggawa ng pie charts. And then it improves student-teacher interaction because as the teacher moves around, for example, during class time and address, kasi na nagbasa or nanood na ang bata ng instructional video about the topic, so the teacher can now address any misconception, no, in class. Hindi yung magdi-discuss pa si teacher tapos wala nang oras para i-address yung mga tanong or misconceptions ng bata. So, kumbaga, yung time that is spent on direct instruction ay ginawa na ng bata at home. So nakafocus na si teacher on addressing the needs or the difficulties of the students in class. Okay. It also improves learning and it increases learner engagement with the content particularly, and it promotes self-discipline. What else does research say about flipping classrooms? It also allows for differentiated learning. So teachers can actually provide students with either a reading material or a video material about a particular topic. So if the learner is more visual and prefers to watch the video, then pwedeng yun ang gagamitin niya than reading it. Okay? And the teacher can actually provide various types of resources to the learners on one particular topic. Okay? And then it improves class attendance according to research. And then it is preferred by learners more than the traditional methods. And let me share with you some of the key learnings that these studies shared, no, regarding flipped classroom implementation. According to them, small, well-organized steps must be allowed in implementing a flipped classroom so that all learners are engaged in the process. So hindi naman agad-agad, ano? So dapat you have to carefully plan also what type of activities are you going to give to your students such that they are really engaged in the learning process. And then the kind of the quantity of technology tools used in flipped classroom is not as important as simply using technology in the first place to promote learning. Another one is the differences in learner outcomes based on different implementations of flipped learning are small in comparison to the differences in outcomes between flipped and traditional classes. So, yung paggamit, no, yung different implementations ng flipped learning, hindi ganun significantly different yung learning outcomes ng mga bata compared nung kinumpara ang flipped classroom sa traditional classes. Okay? And then, feedback to the teacher is important to effectively monitor the progress of the learners. And then, in a flipped classroom also, ang sabi nila, it is difficult to make sure that all learners have access to the necessary resources. Kaya, you have to make sure, no, kung mga bata may access ba talaga sa site na to before referring all of them to that site. So, pwede sigurong you provide a printed copy, and then the students, instead of going to the website in their individual learning time, ay basahin na lang nila yung printed copy na i-provide mo, no? Kasi they may not have access to the internet, they may not have access to computers. So careful planning is really needed, no? Kahit saan naman, ma-blended, ma-online, or ma-modular instruction, you have to carefully plan your instruction. And then the time spent, no, in front of a computer is increased. And there's no guarantee that learners will participate. Ito din yung mga sinabi nilang learning. So you have to take this into consideration. How can you ensure that all learners will participate? And if learners have not done that part, no, yung learning nila on their own, they may be excluded from the class activity. So what will teachers do in class kung may mga estudyante na hindi nagawa yung pinapagawa at home? Okay? Next. Here are some pros and cons of a flipped classroom. Learners have more control of learning activities. That's a good one. And then it's learner-centered, and it develops collaboration and independent learning among learners. And if there is technology access, lessons and contents are more accessible, and it's easier for parents to monitor what students are doing. And then, however, there are also disadvantages, and one of which is that it may worsen the digital divide, no? And for first-time implementers, more time is needed in preparation. And you need to trust, no, that your learners will do the learning activities by themselves. And then the time in front of the computer screen is increased. And then it is not designed to improve standardized test scores. So how does flipped classroom promote independent learning? Independent learning, as defined by the Encyclopedia of the Sciences of Learning, is that method or learning process where learners have ownership and control of their learning, and they learn by their own actions and direct, regulate, and assess their own learning. The independent learner is able to set goals, make choice and decisions about how to meet his learning needs, to take responsibility of constructing and carrying out his own learning, monitor his progress toward achieving his goals, and self-assess the learning outcomes. And how do you promote independent learning? You promote independent learning by giving your learners opportunities where they can monitor their progress, giving them questions, scaffolding, to develop also communication among your learners, and then you encourage collaboration among learners, and give learners choices and encourage them to set their own learning goals, and encourage reflective learning. And here are some key elements of independent learning. First is that learners in independent learning, learners take responsibility of their learning process, and there's provision of support from the teacher. And in independent learning, you will see that students are self-motivated, and there's a strong and positive relationship between the teacher and the learners. And there's an enabling environment for the students, and there's mutual responsibility for learning. The responsibility for learning is not just for the teacher to teach the students, but students also take responsibility of their learning. And flipped classroom. In flipped classroom, we allow learners to take responsibility of their own learning. So when that happens, we have actually addressed the two key elements that we've mentioned about independent learning, and then promotes self-paced learning. So in that case, there's an enabling environment where students can actually replay the video for them to learn better, to better understand what's being discussed in the video lecture. And then it promotes learner and teacher interaction. Okay, so with the teacher support, like addressing students' individual needs during class time, it actually increases or it gives more time for the teacher to interact with the students. And then it's an enabling environment. And then it establishes strong and positive relationships between the teacher and the learners. And it promotes learning. Self-motivated learners are actually learn better. And then promotes learner engagement, no? It's actually a characteristic of an enabling environment where learner engagement is enhanced. And then self-discipline, when students take responsibility of the learning and make sure that they come to class prepared, they're actually developing in them self-discipline and good study habits as they manage their own learning. And allows for differentiated instruction when teacher provides support to students and give them various types of learning materials about a particular topic depending on the learning style of the students. Then you can actually encourage, no, you're supporting differentiated learning. Okay, so I hope you have learned something from our session today. And if you have questions, please type them now and we'll address your questions kung hanggang kailan ang i-allow sa atin ng time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mona, for this lively and extremely informative session. Personally, I thought the ideas about what our students, our learners can do outside the school classrooms, and also examples of the habits and practices that they can develop in a flipped classroom strategy are quite helpful in the time of new normal, and especially now that we are under in a crisis of the pandemic where normal schooling or in-class activities may not be the suitable strategy for our learners. We welcome questions again from our participants. All right, so we would like to thank especially Mona for sharing with us, taking the lead for this three-part series on remote teaching and learning for K-12 teachers. We are greatly indebted to you for leading this three-part series. And we'd like to take this opportunity, especially now we are on our third and last session in the series. And we are very grateful to Mona because today is her birthday and she has chosen to be with us in this session. So let's take a little time to greet her.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mods!
Alam na nila. I'm another year older, and thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Sasabayan ko sana yun, kaya lang baka
Wag na,
bumalik
wag na.
yung video. Di ba, Mods? All right, again, thank you very much, Mods, and happy birthday.
Thank
We
you.
are now open for the question and answer segment. And Mods, our resource person here, will be responding to as many of the questions as time will allow us. So feel free, type away your questions. All right, we already have one question here from Teacher Femi. No, napaka-active nitong si Teacher Femi, you know. His question is there a type of learner, for example, intelligence level or what's SES, or teacher where flipped classroom is appropriate or not? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Femi, for that question. As discussed kanina, no, flipped classroom actually allows for differentiated instruction. So if you have learners who are fast or who are, kumbaga, mataas yung level nila compared to learners who are slow, you can give them during their individual learning time or yung assignment or yung time which they spent at home learning, pwedeng iba yung ibigay mo dun sa sabi mo nga ay intelligent ones or yung sa mga iba na na medyo kailangan ng guidance pa, no? So pwede mong i i kumbaga i-set yung activities na appropriate for different kinds of learners, the kind of activities that you give as an assignment. Then in class, you can actually address the needs, no, of the learners, kasi the class time can be spent more on addressing their needs. So kung ang mga estudyante ay mabilis at naintindihan, wala masyadong tanong, what you can do is give them more activities that they can read in class while you go around checking on others, on what their questions are, on what difficulties they have encountered, or what misconceptions they have, no? So actually, hindi lang siya pang matatalino or mga batang slow learners, kung hindi, actually tinutulungan kanyang ma-address yung ganung klaseng pangangailangan, no, na kung may mga estudyante kang kailangan ng more time for you to address their needs or to help them in their difficulties or in their misconceptions, then pwede mong maibigay yon during class time. Then kung naman mabibilis masyado yung estudyante mo, you can give them more activities in class. But I think ang isang ano dito is yung mga non-readers siguro. Yun yung medyo kailangan nating i-watch, no? Kasi pag hindi sanay ang bata or hindi sila readers, baka mahirapan sila to do their independent learning at home. Like, kasi mostly, or baka pwedeng hindi reading materials ang ibigay mo pag ganun yung case. So, again, hindi siya dun lang sa particular type of learner appropriate. In fact, ma-address mo yung differentiated instruction in flipped learning.
All right. I think the second part to that question from Teacher Femi also refers to the socio-economic background or status of either the learner or the teacher, no? And that's strongly connected, I think, or related to the question from Teacher Cecil Veneracion, who says, how about in the remote areas, flipped classroom cannot or may not be done? I think the focus of these questions will be which models or types of the flipped classroom fit into specific contexts.
Okay. In remote areas where internet connection is not stable or is not that reliable, and in areas where students actually don't have access to technology, the flipping side, the part where you provide the learning activities that students will do at home can be given in print, no, in printed materials. So pwede mo, as I've mentioned kanina, pwede mong i-print yung reading materials, no, na pwede mo ibigay sa kanila. So that's what they do at home. So definitely in this case, you cannot do the virtual flipped classroom. And in remote areas also, you cannot do the ano yung isa, full flipped classroom kasi wala, baka ang remote areas wala din sila masyadong, ang sa school mismo they don't have access to technology. So what you can do, so in this case, flipping classroom may involve the use of technology during the individual learning time of the students, or may not use, no. So we can actually modify, although the literature says it's actually better if you make use of technology in the individual learning time of the students, but that can still be done para lang din kayong nagbibigay ng homework, no, sa bata. They do they read ahead, no, about the particular content. So pwedeng ibigay mo na printed reading materials yung yung ipapabasa mo sa bata. Siguro hindi ka pwedeng magbigay ng demonstration focused na ano, na kung saan papanoorin ng bata sa ang video na ginawa mo kasi they may not have access to technology. So the very least that you can adopt is the standard inverted classroom na reading materials given in printed form, and then you do the activities in class or further discussion in class. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I think that also answered in part a similar question related to reinforcement in situations where technology is not available, especially in remote areas. There's another question here about, I think this is in relation to one of the challenges or key learnings about using flipped classroom. What can we possibly do as teachers to ensure that students take responsibility in accomplishing learning tasks assigned to them while they are at home? This is a question from teacher John Patrick Gallo Lazaro.
Okay. I think you just need to make sure that the tasks that you give to them that they do at home is feasible and doable, no? Hindi yung parang bibigyan mo sila ng sangkatutak na reading materials. Wag naman. Kasi remember, hindi lahat ng bata ganun kasipag. And you have to make sure siguro that the materials that you give to them are engaging enough para capture yung attention talaga ng bata, and then provide something that they can relate to, no? So materials that they can relate to. So dapat yung it will help them appreciate that what they are learning, no? Kasi na-apply nila sa kanilang kumbaga sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na buhay, and also that will help them explain, no, or understand the world around them. So to make sure that students do their part at home, give them tasks that are doable in a particular time, no? Hindi yung sangkatutak na parang i-overwhelm mo na sila ng reading assignments. And then give them engaging tasks, and then of course give them a guide. Again, yung ginagawa ng modular distance learning, you can provide them that here is what you need to do, because you need to be able to do this for you to be able to participate in the discussion the following meeting. So talagang bigyan mo ng explanation, explain mo sa bata kung ba't kailangan nilang gawin yung mga activities na yun, and give them a guide. Okay?
All right. So I think the idea of providing students the appropriate resources that are needed for completing certain tasks is essential, as Mona stated. And it is also important that it should match their interest and their abilities. I think one other thing that might be helpful also is your constant monitoring of their work, just to make sure that students or the learners are on track and probably on time. Um, I remember very strongly yung sinabi kanina sa one of the slides that says yung independent learning. Hindi ito natural sa mga bata, no? Hindi sila sanay na ganon. So siguro unti-unti tutulungan din natin silang participate sa mga proseso kung saan kailangan natututunan nila, no, yung mga habits that will help them learn independently. I think that's also very important from the presentation itself. There's another question here. Itong nasagot na rin siguro itong partly, itong kay Teacher Megs. Flipped classroom, suggesting today's distance learning. Na-touch na rin ni Dr. Mona yan. There's an interesting question. Is it from Teacher Lorena? Is it advisable to use the vernacular in making the flipped lesson or material, especially for non-readers or below average learners? I think this is a good extension of the earlier question and answer on how to ensure that students are also participating.
Okay. Of course, no, kung mas maintindihan ng bata, if non-English reader yung bata, mas magandang yung mother tongue yung gamitin mo. If you have the time to develop your own resources in the mother tongue, then better po yun. Kasi as per research, no, learners learn best in their mother tongue. Nabasa ko po yan just recently. So, talagang pinopromote din ng United Nations yung UNICEF ba or United Nations, I'm sorry, I forgot the organization, yung paggamit ng mother tongue ever since kasi nga nakakatulong sa bata. So if you have time, again, if you have time to develop materials in the mother tongue, then use those materials for your learners. But then ang isa sigurong maganda is para dun sa mga non-readers, you can provide them with video materials instead, no, that they can watch. Kung meron naman silang access to TV, meron silang TV sa bahay, they can watch instead, and then mas maintindihan nila yon. If ang video material is in the mother tongue, then better din, ano, para mas maintindihan ng bata. Then the discussion in class ay about the video material that they watch. So it does not necessarily mean na when you flip your classroom ay kailangan mong maggamit ng online na resources. So pwedeng offline, you can give them yung mga video clips na produce ninyo kunyari in the vernacular or in the mother tongue that the students can watch, no, especially those non-readers.
All right, there's just one last question right now. Later on, we will have plenty of opportunities for more questions on this when we do the kapihan on Thursday. Meanwhile, there's one very interesting and very practical question here from teacher J.M. Bauzon. He's asking, how can teachers manage the distractions because such may lead to misunderstandings and student alienation? Very practical po ito, no? Lalo na ngayong may pandemya, no? Teachers, students, their parents, families, and entire communities are dealing with a lot of things.
Siguro yun nga, yung amount of time for the learning activities at home should be not too long, no, para kasi baka masyadong mahaba yung gagawin ng bata, mawalan na rin sila ng gana. And then dapat lang din informed yung parents kasi as per Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, there's going to be a learning facilitator who will help the students, no, do the learning activities at home. So kung merong gagawin sa flipped classroom, kunyari you're going to do blended and it is allowed in your area, to do face-to-face or to conduct face-to-face sessions with your students. So gagawa ka ng flipped classroom. Ang learning facilitator should be oriented din dun sa learning activity ng bata at home para makatulong siya, no, na hindi ma-avoid yung any distractions. You can set a particular time for students to do the work at home. So hindi yung free sila na gawin lang yung kanilang assignments anytime na gusto nila. Dapat meron ding schedule, para lang din silang nasa class na kung ang schedule mo ay 8 to 9 a.m. for example, then doon nila gagawin yon. Then after that, then they can do whatever they want kasi tapos na yung klase nila. Hindi yung buong maghapon, buong araw sila gagawin nila yung learning assignment sa bahay. So that's one way that you can manage distractions. And of course, yung parents sa support is very important. And siguro we make yung activities that are relevant to them kasi makakatulong yon na hindi sila ma-distract kasi if they can relate to the activities, if they can put meaning, if they can make meaning on what they're doing, no, on the learning activities that they do, I don't think madi-distract pa ang bata eh. So dapat lang siguro isipin natin what are these activities that will make students become more engaged, no, in the learning process.
Okay, maraming salamat Dr. Mona. Ngayon kami na naman ang magtatanong sa inyo, mga kasama teacher. Here's our wrap-up question. Thinking about flipped classroom and your current realities, how do you think does flipped learning match the context of your classroom to promote independent learning? So flipped classroom, context of your own classroom right now, and the promotion or fostering of independent learning among our students. Okay, comment your answers below, mga kasama, and share with us your ideas and suggestions. Of course, we will be featuring some of the best and most relevant answers on our Facebook page tomorrow. Let us continue again this conversation about flipping classrooms on KaSaMaTeachers.ph. Here's again the link to that particular discussion page in our KaSaMa Teachers website. Again, thank you, Dr. Mona, for sharing with us your time and expertise on this special day.
Thank you also.
We have learned so much, of course, from your session as always. At I'm sure maraming takeaways at saka new ideas ang ating mga kasama teachers. Before we officially end, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us, mga kabaon kaya, for our teachers?
Ang importante po kasi sa lahat ma-blended, ma-online, ma-modular, ang importante po is careful planning of the activities for your students. So take time to really plan what activities you want them to do in class and even as assignments, no? Because that's the key to a successful lesson, no, implemented in class. Kasi pag hindi masyadong maayos yung planning mo, maraming mga mangyayari along the way na hindi ka ready on how to address them. Whereas pag just like anything that we do, planning is really very important. And yung planning nasa part yun ng teacher. Kayo pa rin po ang may hawak nung successful learning or meaningful learning experience ng bata. So, plan it well kasi pag naplano nyo ng maayos, ang sarap po nung pakiramdam as teachers, tapos makikita nyo ang gaan na rin, no, ng process nung nung pagtuturo ninyo kasi naayos nyo. Of course, don't expect na first time implementation na perfect agad. Hindi naman. Just continue to learn, and then continue also to get also feedback from your students kasi importante din po 'yun. Okay, thank you po.
Great, that's a good cycle. You plan, you try it out, you assess your work, take out the students, how students react, and probably revise for the next cycle. Maraming salamat, Dr. Mona. Again, thank you very much everyone sa pagsama niyo sa amin sa webinar session natin ngayong umaga. We would like to invite you to our culminating activity for this series. So this is not the last. This is just the third session. Samahan niyo kami sa isang kapihan session with Dr. Mona Sasing again at ng ating series, and some resource persons from UP NISMED. Most of them will be coming from the core team of KaSaMa Teachers Community. We will have a panel of experts to consolidate the key insights from our previous sessions, as well as discuss the other concerns that you and us may have surrounding remote teaching at this time of the pandemic. This will be again streamed live via KaSaMa Teachers Community page on Facebook on Thursday. Mark your date, September 10, again at 10 in the morning. For updates, please stay tuned lang po sa ating KaSaMa Teachers Community Facebook page. I think we already have that announcement posted earlier. And again, we also value your feedback to help us improve our webinar sessions each time. Kindly click on the link in the pinned comment or the link in the caption to answer a quick survey. For helpful and relevant learning resources, remember to join us by signing up for free at www.kasamateachers.ph. Again, we value your feedback and would like to hear from you. Click on the link that you see on your screens. Those of you who would like to have a copy of Dr. Mona's presentation on flipping classrooms will get one as soon as you have submitted your feedback to us. Again, on behalf of UP NISMED, the Broken Way Brothers Foundation, and KaSaMa Teachers Community, thank you everyone for participating in our third KaSaMa webinar session. Keep safe and stay healthy, mga kasama. See you all in our next webinar sessions. Remember, wear your mask, watch your distance, wash your hands. Keep safe.